Joining me today is Jack Savage, who's the Vice President of Communication and Outreach for the Forest Society. So, Jack, we talked about Sunapee. I want to kind of stay in that central region.
Sure.
There's a tract, 236
acres.
Okay,
yeah.
good. My memory's still working.
Yeah.
It abuts the Black Mountain Forest, which is about 1,000 acres.
Something like that. Yeah.
And that sort of connects to the Kearsarge,
right?
and the state forest system.
Yeah.
And are you trying to acquire the land, or the?
We are, right. So there's a as you said, a 236-acre parcel that immediately abuts our Black Mountain Forest, which is one of our 180 or so forest reservations that we own around the state. And this is often how large blocks of protected forest land come to pass. We start with having the opportunity with a willing landowner to acquire one large block, and an abutting landowner may then come to us and say, geez, would you be interested in making this happen? And so that's what's happening here. We have an opportunity to protect an additional 236 acres. That's going to help with the sort of the water quality aspect of protection. It'll add to the recreational resource, and it'll be it's a nice little project.
And it's right near the Kearsarge High School.
It is, and we're doing a really cool project out there, the Mount Kearsarge Outdoor Classroom. We're working with a class of kids and teachers at the school to do some trail maintenance as part of their educational experience. So our educators are out there working side by side with some of their teachers and the kids to make it an educational experience, working outdoors and learning about not just trail maintenance, but a little bit about the natural resource as well.
And as I recall, there's sort of a brook that flows through it into the Warner River.
Well, let's be very quiet about there, because there might be fish in that.
That's what I mean. It's sort of the watershed and an important part of that.
Yeah, and you'll probably be pleased to know that with any Forest Society reservation, our lands are open to the public, and they're open to hunting and fishing under state laws. So if you're an angler or if you're a hunter, you can make use of our lands for the most part.
Talk to me about sort of when you look at that land and you look at it and you make the decision that we want to do it. Is it just because it's abutting, or are there characteristics of the land and the ecosystem that make one thing more important than another?
Right. So it's a great question. We think in terms of conservation values, and anytime we're considering potentially raising money and using our capacity to protect a piece of land, we first start by evaluating the conservation values that are present there. So are there water resources, or is there wildlife habitat? Is there a forest resource? What kind of recreational opportunities exist there? Those kind of things. And there are parcels of land that are perhaps better suited for development than for conservation. And we want to make sure that when we're expending our resources to protect land, that it's the highest quality conservation land. So we go through a process, a vetting process, and that extends not just to us at a staff level, but also to our board, ultimately making the decision. And we have to compare what we're trying to do there with somewhere else in the state, and that's a challenge sometimes to weigh those priorities in the Kearsarge region versus the Seacoast versus the Merrimack Valley versus the North Country.
So what made this particular parcel attractive to you?
So you mentioned the fact that it's an abutting parcel, and that connectivity is helpful, expanding an already existing base. That was key to it. The stream you mentioned, that's certainly an important aspect, and anytime there's water, that typically will mean that the wildlife habitat is particularly valuable. And since it's already connected to other protected land, that will permanently protect that habitat. Those were probably the key things. And then opportunity plays a role too. In this case, there was a landowner who was interested in having it happen, and willing to do what they need to do in order to see that it happens.
We got about 10 seconds. How close are you to achieving the goal to be able to make
We're
this
about
a
halfway there. We've got till June 30th to raise about $300,000, and we're about halfway there, and we're pretty confident that we can get it if people value this the same way we do.
Well, thanks. When we continue our conversation, we're going to focus on some other issues, maybe talk about Northern Pass, so please stay with us.